Well, you could say it's a day 6 years or more than 65 years in the making. On May 10th, the Bob Dylan Center will officially open in Tulsa. It will contain almost 7 decades of work by the Nobel Prize-winning musician, purchased back in 2016 for the purpose of giving fans and academics access to an extraordinary amount of material by a multi-dimensional artist.
We have right here in Tulsa the cornerstones of American music in so many ways.
They say if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's certainly true for Steve Jenkins, who left San Francisco after 35 years to become the first director of the Bob Dylan Center.
I benefited from having hip parents and an older brother and sister who introduced me to very good music at a young age. So Dylan has always been there for me. So yeah, I'd say I've been on a Dylan journey now for quite some time.
We met Steve on the sidewalk outside, while work on the facade and interior continues at a feverish and hush-hush pace to be ready for the official opening on May 10th.
We can't go in today. We're really trying to keep the surprises intact. Though, as you can see, as our doors say, there's something happening here, and there sure is. You know, we took that line from a Dylan song, and there will be a lot of those sorts of Easter eggs, I think, for folks to find if they're Dylan fanatics or even more casual followers.
Noted historian Doug Brinkley is a patron of the center, and he has been inside. And in the May issue of Vanity Fair magazine, Brinkley shared a few nuggets of information. There will be an ironworks designed by Dylan near the entrance, a first-floor gallery that chronicles his career, and a virtual studio that immerses you in a recording session, plus a very special jukebox.
Elvis Costello, who I would say is one of the great artists of our time, right alongside Dylan, Elvis has very graciously accepted our offer of curating a jukebox that we have. Costello has put together a selection of 160 songs, many by Dylan himself, and then others, both well-known and obscure, by kindred artists. So visitors will have a chance to push buttons on that jukebox and play those tunes and learn more about those songs.
The heart of the Center for Historians and Academics will be the archives. Lyric drafts, drawings, documents, photographs, film clips, recordings, and clothing accumulated over 7 decades. 100,000 items in all. Purchased in 2016 by the George Kaiser Family Foundation and the University of Tulsa for a reported $15 to $20 million. Material, enthusiasts will tell you, is priceless and worthy of academic study.
It's absolutely massive. It will take scholars 100 years, 200 years really to sort of work their way through it and make sense of the kinds of riches that are in it.
English professor Dr. Sean Latham was tapped to oversee the Bob Dylan curriculum at the University of Tulsa when the archive arrived 6 years ago.
Before it had been announced publicly, the president said, we need somebody to be teaching Dylan. How do you feel about teaching a course on Dylan? And I taught my first course on Dylan, and I've been teaching courses on Dylan almost continuously during semesters when I'm teaching since then. And I teach those at the undergraduate, introductory undergraduate level. I teach them for advanced English majors. And we have now, I've taught graduate doctoral courses on Dylan.
Latham arrived at TU 21 years ago because of his world-class archive of Irish author James Joyce. Now he oversees the teaching of an equally esteemed American writer.
In many ways, Joyce is the most important writer of the early part of the 20th century. We now have, with Dylan's archive, the most important artist and songwriter and writer generally of the second half of the 20th century. So all the things that have drawn people here for decades to study Joyce will be drawing people here for the next several decades to study Dylan.
Now, one of those budding young Dylan scholars is a young man named Nathan Blue, who's been given the enviable task of going over thousands of fan letters written to Bob Dylan in 1966. And the really cool thing is, those letters were unopened. They'd never been seen before.
There was this massive mail bag that was in the archive that I was so graciously able to get my hands on, and it's a treasure trove. You know, it's this crazy experience of being physically able to open and clean, and make sure to do this whole archival process to make sure we keep the condition of these letters really well for a long time, so a lot of scholars that come after me can study them.
To say Blue has gotten tangled up in Dylan is an understatement. He's writing his doctoral dissertation on the letters and learning something new about the man they're addressed to every day.
It's just a surreal experience, honestly, to open them and it's a time capsule to dive into this letter that was, written 65 years ago by a fan just like me.
That's an enduring phenomena of Dylan's legacy, his ability to engage new generations of fans. The Traveling Troubadour, now 81 years old and still touring with new material, is 57 years older than Nathan Blue.
I think the big draw is that Dylan is someone who does reinvent himself constantly in his career. Dylan was that artist that he kept changing himself, which made me want to keep changing myself and grow and learn. And without that, I wouldn't be the same.
Which begs the question, beyond the Kaiser connection, why did this world-class collection find a permanent home in Oklahoma?
Dylan is not from Oklahoma, but Tulsa has resonated strongly with him. He was particularly drawn to the fact that our umbrella organization also covers the Woody Guthrie Center, which of course opened here in the Arts District of Tulsa about 8 years ago and is just right up the street. There is a lot of synergy, I'd say, between Guthrie and Dylan.
Or as Dylan himself explained to Doug Brinkley in that Vanity Fair article, "There's more vibrations on the coast for sure, but I'm from Minnesota, and I like the casual hum of the heartland." Now, Bob Dylan and his band were in concert at the Tulsa Theater on April 18th, but we're told he did not check out the center, but he has visited the Woody Guthrie Center on previous visits to Oklahoma.